Hi everybody, this is Ruth Royal from Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm really pleased to be talking to Jules Ramsey today, who is Chief Executive Officer at the Ipswich Housing Action Group. Hi Jules, lovely to meet you.
Hi there.
Right, so Jules, first of all, tell us a bit about what the Ipswich Housing Action Group does.
So Ipswich Housing Action Group, or IHAG for short, is a local charity supporting people living with the experience of homelessness or those people at risk of homelessness due to personal adversity. And by homelessness, I don't just mean people who you might see rough sleeping on the streets, but we also class people who are sofa surfing, so sleeping amongst friends, relatives, having to move a couple of nights a week, who potentially are sleeping in their cars, or who are in emergency or temporary accommodation. Those people continue to be homeless.
Oh, that's so interesting to understand the sort of distinction between those different bits, because it's very easy to think of homelessness as, like you say, people sort of sleeping on the streets. It's really nuanced, actually, isn't it?
It is. And the other thing that we tend to remind people is that not everybody that you see begging on the streets is homeless, and not everybody that's homeless begs on the streets. So actually what we tend to find is a number of the people who are genuinely homeless, who have no place, a safe place of their own to call home, who end up sleeping in a sleeping bag or a tent in a churchyard or a covered area in a car park. They're not usually the people that come out and ask for money. We do unfortunately have the knowledge and experience to recognise that some of the people that are out and asking for money in particular actually have accommodation.
Oh, that's really interesting to understand as well, isn't it? But actually, that very powerful to be supporting homeless people through organisations like yours in that way.
Yeah.
I sort of wondered as well, Jules, what are the different kind of jobs that people do within IHAG? Is that
So we, as an organisation, we have three core services. The most visible is our advice hub, and that's the Chapman Centre at the top of Black Horse Lane in Ipswich. And we're open 7 days a week, providing practical and emotional support and guidance to anybody who fits into those categories we've just discussed. So it could be anything as simple as come in, have a hot shower, have a hot drink, change your clothes, and we'll do a bag of laundry for you. To come on in, bring in some paperwork, we'll secure a new ID for you so that we can get you down to one of the local banks and get you a bank account opened, or we'll help you go online, as everything is these days, and apply for benefits, or we'll help you approach the local authority to make a homelessness application. Or, you've just secured a tenancy somewhere else. We're going to do a bit of support work with you just to check that you settle in okay and get to grips with the reality of having a place of your own again and the responsibilities that come with that. So that's really our advice hub. It's a bit of a catch-all. If somebody's got an issue and a concern, this is the place to come. The next service that we have is our debt and money management service. So we've got trained money advisors who work in line with the Financial Conduct Authority regulations to provide quality money advice. And when I say quality money advice, I mean that our advisors are able to give debt advice and support people who wish to get debt relief orders through the court system, or indeed look at bankruptcy. So really important service right now in terms of, people that are struggling financially. And then the final service is our accommodation. So we are in charge of 14 property across Ipswich at the moment, which is a total of 55 bed spaces, and that becomes temporary accommodation for up to 18 months. It's all shared, so it's that all by itself can be challenging for people, but it allows people the time and space to get off the streets, to come in, to settle, to get the circumstances that brought them to become homeless in the first place, get those back into some order and feel a bit more in control of their lives before they then look to move on into private rented or whatever their move on might look like. So that's really the breadth of what we do.
That's really helpful to understand. And so people who work for IHAG, would you have different skills perhaps to work in those three different core areas at the centre, at the, you know, the advice hub, the debt and money management, the accommodation? Would you need different skills to be
Yeah.
in different places?
Yes and no. I mean, with the money management, clearly they're trained money advisors, and so there
Okay.
is a series of, excuse me, there is a series of, you know, professional qualifications and online training. So CPD points, you know, regular continuous personal development throughout the year that
Yeah.
you are expected to do. However, the core thing for me is we're a charity and we work with people.
Yeah.
And so for me, everybody that works here needs to have that natural understanding of, you know, people's lives at times can go a bit left field.
Yeah.
Circumstances can happen that are completely beyond our control. And, you know, the core thing is you see the person first and not the issue. You have a level of understanding that, you know, everybody has the ability to change. Patience is a great one, you know, because it can take time. You know, from a personal perspective, if somebody's saying, hey, here's some choices in order for you to change some stuff, and which one are you going to pick? That may take a little time
Yeah.
for you as a person to,
Yeah.
you know, to make up your mind with that. A sense of humor, you know, I mean, they're the core stuff. I think there's a lot of talk about, no, you know, in charities, oh well, it's, you know, they're vulnerable people, or they're homeless, or they're, you know, they have substance use issues, or they're this, that, and the other. Actually, the core thing that I say to everybody that works is they're a person first. Let's just remember the humanity of you're a person first. So if somebody has really good personal skills who can sit and chat and make people feel at ease, you've got one step in the right direction to come and to work for somewhere like IHAG. All of the other stuff around, you know, what the benefit system looked like, what the legal jargon is, you know, what the housing authority rights and whatever, we can teach you that.
Yeah.
That's stuff that can be learned. But if at your very core you believe that people have a fundamental right to be safe and have a roof over their head, and you believe that people can change and you want to help somebody do that, I'm really interested in talking to that kind of
Ah.
person.
Oh, that's really fantastic to understand. So, like you say, that appreciation of other people, the ability to listen, it seems to me, as well as the patience, and like you say, probably
Absolutely.
the humour to get through probably what are sometimes quite challenging
Yeah,
situations. So you probably need that level of resilience as well, that they all make good entry points, and the willingness to learn the more technical
definitely.
side of things around the
Yeah.
benefit system around that. Oh, that's really helpful to understand.
Yeah, and I think, you know, clearly, as you know, the older we get, the more life experience we have our own, so we can draw on that. That doesn't mean that young people don't have their own experiences, particularly around
Absolutely.
resilience, to bring to this type of work. So yeah, I'm really open to the organisation, you know, bringing on as many different types of people from, you know, different backgrounds as possible, because actually that's really reflective of the community that we're here to support. So
Oh,
and we do, you know, we unfortunately experience people who are 16, 17, 18 who are contacting us. We unfortunately can't work with people below 18 because we're an adults organisation, but right up to, I think the oldest person we've got sort of late 70s, early 80s. So
gosh.
yeah, it's a real gamut, you
Yeah.
know, across the age range and background range of people that we support. So yeah, that sounds a bit scary actually, now I've said
No,
that.
it doesn't. No, it's, I mean, that
It's
sounds
the reality, isn't it?
fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. And I sort of wonder, so like, is there, like for people who are looking to join an organisation like yours, are there any sort of qualifications or training that you kind of look on favourably that people have done, or any background of experience that they might have gained in the workplace?
Yeah, so one of the fundamentals we look at clearly is safeguarding. That there has to be that understanding of what is safe and what isn't, and the duty that we hold in terms of letting the adult social services know if we believe people are at risk.
Yeah.
That's something that we can offer in-house. We tend to get people who've been interested in health, you know, health and social care,
Yeah.
not social workers particularly, although we've certainly had social work placements here before,
Yeah.
because I think it's a really good balance to see what charitable organisations offer rather than just that viewed from a
Yeah.
statutory duty, if you will. Um, Yeah, as I
It's really
said,
helpful.
it's really the caring profession. That said, you know, a lot of the people that come to us also have enduring mental health issues. So anybody potentially who's considered psychology, you know, has a really good understanding of how people's behaviour and thought processes, you know, can influence each other. But I'm really open to anybody. I mean, like I
Oh,
said,
that's
you know,
fantastic.
from my perspective, those are the things that we can teach.
Oh no,
So
that's really helpful to understand. And like you say, probably you know, with the debt and money management, if you're interested in that side of things, you've obviously got to go through and get professional qualifications. And I'm
yes.
guessing, you know, and obviously you probably need more of a grasp of numeracy and things like that in those types of roles. But that's really interesting, like the breadth of different skills that people have that are actually quite nuanced and around that kind of people facing and empathy essentially with other human beings. Jules, how did you get into this? What's been
Mm.
your career pathway?
Um, so my story, I mean, I didn't necessarily think that my story was any different to anybody else's, really, but you don't you? When you're a child, you just kind of jog along going,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I go to school and well, what am I interested in? Oh, I'm not really sure. And, you know, I had that terrible question in careers advice. What was it, sort of when I was about 12, 13, when they say, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? I was lucky if I knew what to do that weekend, let alone the rest of my, you know, the rest of my life. So that's quite a big one. I don't think they ask you that anymore. And at the time, I mean, at that age, I was happy to work in a sweet shop. Yeah, I wasn't, you know, that was
Yeah.
as far forward as I could think. And then I don't quite know what changed, but I was really keen to go on through sixth form and then potentially university. I'm the youngest of four children. None of the other three of my siblings had done that, but it struck something in me that actually I quite fancied law. I quite fancied that kind of meaty,
Yeah.
let's have a real understanding. And I think, again, that came from that. Actually, by understanding some of that, you can help people. My parents weren't as keen as I on that career choice, and so I got a summer job, and actually it was just maternity leave cover for a position within local authority. And yeah, those were the days where local authority was a sort of job for life almost. And
Yeah.
in a very short space of time, they'd offered me the opportunity to go to 1 day a week college on day release
Oh,
and
brilliant.
get a BTEC in public administration. And so yeah, great, I was earning and learning at the same time, which is a
Yeah.
really good opportunity. So that's what I did. Stayed in local authority right up until my mid-20s, when I had my children. Whilst I was out on mat leave, thought, actually, I want to do something different. And you know, I'd already been prior to having the children, myself and my husband had been foster carers for about
Oh, wow.
18 months. With some quite complex young people, and so we'd done a fair bit of training for that. And at that point I said, actually, this is the thing I want to do. You know,
Yeah.
whilst I was off on maternity leave, I went to night school and actually took a basic level in health and social care. So, you know, that's kind of where
Oh,
I
cool.
started.
Brilliant.
And once I yeah, left local authority, did some childminding for a while, including an emergency childminder for the local authority, so children who
Yeah.
needed to be placed quite quickly, and then got a job in a family centre. And it was, you know, sort of 3 day a week,
Yeah.
practical, you know, supporting families who were struggling. And that was with a local organisation, a local charity, Ormiston. And ended up staying there 11 years.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, and it was just kind of in a blink of, wow,
Yeah.
okay, I've been here for this long, but moved from being a 3 day a week practitioner to a full-time practitioner to a senior practitioner to a service manager and then area manager. So, you know, by the time I left Ormiston, I had been in charge of a number of services across Suffolk, including prison-based services, domestic abuse support services, yeah, obviously the children's
Yeah.
centre stuff. And my children were at an age where I felt I could not have to limit myself to Suffolk anymore. And
Yeah.
with that, I did 6 years as a director in a domestic and sexual violence charity in London
Wow.
and commuted. And that, you know,
A
my
different breadth of experience again.
yeah, very specialised, very nuanced. But of course, every woman who we supported in refuge was homeless. You know,
Yeah.
and that because it's emergency temporary accommodation. And so yeah, it was a different slant on that. But still seeing that the just the madness really of how people are left in
Yeah.
situations where they have no security. How are you expected to recover from the trauma that you've just been through if you don't even know how long you have a roof over your head?
Oh, yeah.
And you know, so it's quite an intense, but both roles actually have been quite intense, and I think they're kind of, there's a time limit on them, otherwise you can become quite cynical of the world. I'd be that honest. I mean, you know, great support systems as in with the domestic abuse service, and then, you know, 6 years of commuting, when I thought, right, okay, it's kind of time to come home a little bit, because
Yeah.
you know, I still lived in Ipswich. Saw this role advertised and thought, well, it just sort of fits. I mean, it just does. So it's nice to be back and supporting what is still my local community. But the 13-year-old who wanted to work in a sweet shop and would have been happy with that, to the 51-year-old who's a CEO, I didn't go to university. I didn't do that. But what I have done through my experiences through work is gone, okay, every job I've stepped up into, I can see how the job I was doing has made a difference. And now I'm in a place where actually my actions mean that every job in this organisation can make a difference to somebody's life.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that's, it's an indescribable feeling, really. Very privileged.
It is. And if you were to go back, and this is, we've sort of asked everybody this at the end of these talks, that if you were to go back and have a conversation with your younger self, Jules, starting out on your career journey, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Dream big, absolutely believe. One of my latest tattoos says believe. I don't think you can see that. I was shy. I didn't speak to boys. I had very little confidence in myself. I was a lucky student in as much as I didn't have to try too hard to get good grades. And that's luck, I think. But also, school was a bit of a refuge for me in terms of learning and that ability to focus and all the rest of it, particularly as the youngest. Absolutely dream big. You can do it. Believe in yourself, even when others don't. You know, I think, that's got to be it, really. You can, quite literally, I know it's cheesy, or, you know, the world's at your feet and you can do whatever you want to do, but genuinely, you really can.
I love that as a message to end on. Jules, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to meet you.
You're very welcome.